Our story begins on the fateful summer night of August 12, 1484 in the city of Milan, specifically in the Sforzesco castle. The night is quiet. Everyone is asleep, except for the guards. In the night, the monotonous melody of the crickets and the faint whisper of the palace candles are heard. Smell of jasmine floats in the air. The first rays of sun peek out from behind the Duomo di Milano, when the silence of the streets is interrupted by the scream of a woman. Suddenly, in the palace, the noise of armor running through the corridors begins to resonate. The whispers begin to resonate in the environment, and in the background you can hear.
Notify the doctor.
Running through the corridor, an old man hurries to enter the private rooms of the palace. The doors close, and the nobles begin to crowd at the door. The doors open slowly, and Dr. Gaspar Torella comes out, who with a broken voice communicates to the people who crowd around him.
The Pope has died. He has been murdered.
Ludovico Sforza, who is the governor of the house, begins to order the chaos and orders that all the people who were sleeping in the noble area be locked in their rooms, that no one leave the castle, and indicates that they notify Leonardo. The sun was already illuminating the streets of Milan when a horse-drawn carriage galloped into the palace courtyard, from which the great Leonardo da Vinci, my mentor, gets off. The people crowd around the greatest genius of his time, looking for answers to this mystery.
Calm down, calm down. Where is Luigi? Luigi, where have you gotten to, boy?
Here I am, master. Come this way, don't waste time. The situation is serious.
Give me a brief summary of what happened. Come on, boy, snap to it.
Last night, there was a meeting in the castle to reach an agreement of alliance against the Turks. It was a high-level meeting. The castle was closed, and no one entered or left the grounds during the night. The Sforzesco castle has a noble hall, in which only the great guests of the castle sleep. In this case, the 4 guests of the meeting and the host. The noble area is guarded by soldiers all night long. The security system after the Pazzi incident has been reinforced, and in special situations like tonight, the companions do not sleep with the guests. In the noble area, 5 people slept last night. I know I'm very bold, master, but I think the killer of the Pope is among them.
Who are the 5 people who participated in this meeting?
Lorenzo de' Medici, head of the Medici family, and the great power in the shadow of Milan, holding the signoria of the city. Roberto Sanseverino d'Aragona, nephew of the Sforza and captain of the Venetian army, responsible for the security of the summit. Archbishop of Pisa Francesco Salviati, highest ecclesiastical authority of the city and mediator of the meeting. And the Duke of Milan, Ludovico Sforza, lord of the palace and host of the summit.
Who else has access to that area?
At night, the women of the Duke and the Signoria have access to the rooms, as well as the praying ladies of the Pope and the Archbishop. After completing their marital obligations and the traditional night prayer, they leave the area, which is closed and guarded by soldiers to avoid surprises at night. The same guard is maintained throughout the night, which is always the same: a pair of soldiers on the day shift and another pair for the night shift. The guard knows the palace staff and companions perfectly. Everything was perfect after dinner yesterday. The five went to their rooms satisfied with the political agreements they had made that night. This morning early, the Pope's praying lady went to pray the rosary before dawn. When she entered the papal rooms, she discovered the body of the pontiff lying in blood on the bed.
Gather everyone who was in the house tonight in the main hall and get me a room to talk to them. Keep the four suspects isolated in their rooms and without contact with each other.
I quickly gave the relevant orders and grouped the inhabitants of the house in the main hall. I set up the Duke's auxiliary office as the interview area. Master Leonardo decided to start with the Pope's personal physician.
Are you Gaspar Torella, personal physician of Pope Sixtus VI, correct?
Dr. Gaspar Torella, correct. I have been the Pope's personal physician for years. I go with him on all his trips, and I am never more than 5 minutes away from where he is.
How was the Pope's health lately? Did he have any serious health problems?
In the past few months, he had been quite affected by gout and had episodes of fevers, but he was currently healthy as a horse.
When did I last examine it?
Yesterday, I always check him after giving morning mass, and his health was perfect, like a kid.
What did you find when you entered the room?
The Pope was lying in bed covered in blood, with a penetrating wound to the chest in the precordial area. It was a quick and accurate blow, possibly while he was sleeping. I found no signs that he was defending himself. God took him quickly with him.
Could you tell me what time you think he died?
Based on the temperature and severity of the body, we could say that he died between 4 and 5 in the morning.
Thank you. You can wait in the living room. If I need anything, I'll call you.
From what we have found so far, we deduce that only the suspects and their companions could have access to the camera. Leonardo's logical step was to find out when the women left the noble zone. For this, he asked me to let the soldiers who were guarding pass.
You were on duty at the gate last night, correct?
Yes, that's right. All night from dusk to dawn. Although today we have extended our shift for obvious reasons.
When did the wives and prayer companions leave the rooms?
The first to leave was Beatrice d'Este, the wife of the Duke of Milan Ludovico Sforza. She asked if everything was correct and asked us to be alert and to remember the Pazzi conspiracy. Then, as always, Clarissa Orsini was Lorenzo's wife de Medici. Came out happy and greeted us very friendly and polite. Then, as every night, we let Cecilia Gallerani, the Duke's special companion, come in. Behind her came the prayer partner for tonight of the Archbishop of Pisa, Francesco Salviati, looking crestfallen and rosy. After her, Cecilia Gallerani came out. He greeted us like every night. A very nice girl, if you allow me the comment. And the last one was Giovanna Sclafanato, the favorite prayer lady of the Pope. The Pope walked her to the door and said goodbye to her very affectionately. It would be 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was the last time we saw the Pope alive. The door was closed behind her, and was not opened again until Giovanna Sclafanato returned at dawn for the morning prayer, a daily custom of the Pope during his stay in the palace.
How did they find the body?
He was lying on the bed, and Miss Giovanna Sclafanato crying inconsolably, hugging him.
Have they found the murder weapon?
No, it's not in the room. We've thoroughly searched it.
Is it impossible for anyone to enter or leave the rooms during the night?
Completely impossible after the Pazzi conspiracy. Security increased considerably. No one wants to be Giuliano, and no person entered or left the noble zone. Also during this visit, security was reinforced by express order of Roberto Sanseverino, who is in charge personally of the safety of this papal visit.
I suppose you all know, but the Pazzi conspiracy was a plot hatched in 1478. It seems like yesterday, but 6 years have passed. The intention of this conspiracy was to take the government of the Republic of Florence from the brothers Medici, Lorenzo and Giuliano. The Florentines Francesco and Jacopo de Pazzi, allied with the Archbishop of Pisa Francesco Salviati, and supported from Rome by Pope Sixtus VI, and his nephew Girolamo Riario, and from Naples by King Ferrante I, planned and carried out the attack on the 26th of April in the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore. The conspiracy was a failure. Giuliano was stabbed to death in front of all the people of Milan, including me and my Lord Leonardo. But Lorenzo was only slightly wounded. The popular reprisal and judicial sentences caused the death of about 80 people, among them almost all the conspirators. The extrajudicial execution of several ecclesiastics motivated the excommunication of Lorenzo. The rage of the Pope against Florence led to the declaration of war. The Papal States, allied with Naples and Siena, attacked Florence, allied with Milan and Venice, for 2 years. Until a month ago, the Ottoman assault on Otranto made peace necessary to unite all the Italian states. Reason for which this summit was held in the Sforzesco castle. In it, Pope Sixtus VI tried to get Lorenzo de' Medici to join the cause in exchange for his bank, being the one to give financial support to the battle, and therefore get all the economic gains from the war. After learning that the last person he saw alive and the first person he saw dead was Giovanna Sclafanato, Master Leonardo made me look for her to talk to her.
You are Giovanna Sclafanato, the Pope's prayer lady, correct?
If we have been doing 3 shifts of prayer daily for 2 years, we always do the shift at dawn, after a nap and before bed. A pope needs to constantly talk to God, and prayer in company is always more fun. My function is that the Pope is happy with God, so that he can rest and wake up with the necessary strength to carry out his hard epistolary task. That is why he always accompanied him on all his trips.
And did that prayer last night have any special nuance?
No, the Pope was happy after the dinner meetings. He hoped to finally defeat the Turks, with the help of the King of Spain, who is preparing a large fleet. He was happy with the achievements of the meeting and the new alliance with Lorenzo Medici. You know that after praying, he always feels like chatting. Doesn't that happen to you?
No, I'm more of reflecting after the prayer, but I suppose it depends on the company you pray with. How did the Pope find Dawn when he returned to pray?
I opened the door that was locked and found the dead Pope bathed in blood with a wound on his chest. His eyes were blank and his body cold and rigid. I can't contain myself and I screamed. I know a lady shouldn't behave like that, but the affection of so many nights of prayer led me to react in an impolite manner. Upon hearing the screams, the soldiers guarding the door quickly entered. They were nervous and rebuked the consequences that this slip was going to have on their lives.
After these first investigations, it seems clear that the Pope was killed with a knife and can only be killed by one of our suspects. Logically, our next step is to check the papal room before meeting with the 4 main guests at this high-level meeting and find the murder weapon. Leonardo thought that the weapon had to be in the noble area or in the gardens. I was in charge to check the noble zone and send the soldiers to check the garden. The room was all messed up with traces of blood on the mattress where the Pope had slept. After checking every corner, there was no trace of the murder weapon. In the room, there was a balcony that overlooked the garden. The height was high enough so that no one could access by a stairway from the garden.
It is clear that there are only 4 suspects in this murder. Let's start with the interviews. I will start with Roberto Sanseverino d'Aragona, captain of the Venetian army. Roberto Sanseverino, what can you tell me about last night?
My wife left the room early at night and I fell asleep. I only remember a sound like bees in the early morning. I found it curious, but I did not give it the greatest importance. I woke up with the screams of the maid Pope's prayer, and when I went to the room I saw the body of the Pope inert on the bed.
Did you have some kind of conflict with the Pope?
Well, I am the head of the guard. My mission was to control the security of the Pope after those of Puzzi, and it is clear that the control of the force in this city is under my command. But my soldiers are loyal, and I have always been loyal to the Pope, because he was going to reveal me to the one who guides me and pays me in the house of my relative Scorza. I was always faithful to him and no one ever doubted my honor.
But then if the soldiers on duty had come in and murdered the Pope, would you have ordered it?
My soldiers are loyal to me and I am loyal to the Pope. I see it as improbable that such a thing could happen. Also, at dinner, the Pope decided that I was going to be appointed Supreme Commander of the Holy Alliance in the next fight against the Turks. There is no greater honor for a soldier.
Dear Archbishop of Pisa Francesco Salviati, tell me what you remember about the night.
I'm sorry, I don't remember almost anything. I finished my night prayer and fell asleep. I was exhausted. I only remember how a wind sounded outside, but it didn't move the balcony curtains. At dawn the screams of the papal room, and when I approached I saw the unfortunate cause of such a disturbance.
Did you have some kind of disagreement with the Pope?
There was always the issue of my proposal for the papacy and my fight in the conclave with Sisto Sexto. You already know how wars are in the Vatican Curia, but I have to thank you for the appointment as Archbishop after the Pizzi conspiracy. I value my support on that great day, and that is why he made me Archbishop, and at dinner he had promised me that he was going to take me to Rome and postulate me as his main successor. Now my race towards the papacy is dead and I will die. Archbishop of Milan.
Dear Duke of Milan Ludovico Sforza, can you tell me what happened last night?
A disgrace, Leonardo. I never thought that this would happen in my house. After the Pizzi conspiracy I doubled all the security measures. I even brought San Severino with me to supervise the security of the summit. I didn't even allow the women slept with their husbands during important visits. But you see, you can never avoid misfortunes. The night was quiet like the rest of the nights. I was only woken up by a flock of birds at dawn, and I thought that nature had been crazy lately. Then at dawn I woke up with the screams of the Pope's Lady of Prayer. When I got to the room I could believe that a Pope would have had this unfortunate mishap in my house.
Did you have some kind of discrepancy with the Pope?
Well, I always had my little problems with the clergy. I never tolerate my illegitimate children well, and I was not on the side of the papacy in the Pizzi affair. But tonight he promised me that my bastard son with Cecilia Gallerani, who is called Cesare, was going to go with him to Rome to begin his career within the clergy, and a father does anything for the future of his son. When I gave the news to Cecilia she was very happy, and having a woman like that happy can make a man very happy. You already understand me.
Friend Lorenzo, I'm sorry to see you in these circumstances. Could you tell me that he remembers the fateful night of yesterday?
It was a quiet night. My wife left the room after a nice talk about politics. You know my wife's keen political sense. Something that runs in the family. After that I fell asleep and woke up to the screams. When approaching the Pope's room, I saw a scene that I don't think I need to explain.
Did he have some kind of enmity with the Pope?
It is known that I was excommunicated by Pope Sixtus VI after revealing the Pizzi conspiracy and doing justice. They killed my brother Giuliano, who as you well remember died in your arms, and family is the most important thing for a Medici. But this meeting was to sign peace and ally ourselves against the Turks. We signed this agreement at dinner. I am now a Christian again, and it is not a good start to kill your dad the day he returns to be your boss in heaven and on earth. Besides, you know that a war is always a good deal that a banker cannot pass up.
After these interviews, it was not at all clear who the murderer of the Pope was. We needed a lever to force a turn in events, and Leonardo could clarify the mystery. Lawrence de Medici. He was motivated by the murder of his brother and his excommunication, but had forgiven him, and politics make strange bedfellows. Especially if a banker smells the money a good fight brings. Roberto Sanseverino had the possibility of ordering the soldiers who were guarding him to enter and assassinate him. But he does not have a clear benefit from death, and it is clear that he wanted to be the general of the Holy Alliance, something that is cut short with this death papal. The Archbishop of Pisa Francesco Salviati was always resentful for not having been Pope, but he affirms that he was going to be his successor, although now it seems clear that he will be. Since this hasty death stirs the hornet's nest of the Vatican conclave, and you never know which way where the pissed off and offended bees will come out. Ludovico Sforza and Lord of the Palace was the one who had an easier time knowing all the ins and outs of the palace. But he was the least interested in his house being involved in a papal death. Also placing a bastard son in the Vatican that would surely make Cecilia very happy, and that Cecilia is happy is a good reason not to bite the hand that makes her happy. We were at a dead end, 4 suspects, with 4 motives to kill and to save a pope. Which of the basic impulses would have turned love into hate? Which hand would wield the deadly knife? The key was to find the weapon. Its clue could change the case. Suddenly a murmur was heard in the corridor, and one of the soldiers burst into the room.
We have found the weapon. It is bloody and the blood is fresh.
Leonardo inspected the weapon, and in it he could see the hilt on it was a shield from Florence, hometown of the Francesco Salviati family. That shield belonged to his family since time immemorial. Leonardo immediately recognized this shield as the same as the arms used in the Pazzi conspiracy. It was the same shield used to sack the heart of Giuliano Medici, Lorenzo Medici's brother. The instigator of that plot was Francesco Salviati, who was already accused of plotting the Pazzi conspiracy. The mystery was solved. We already had a murderer.
Arrest Francesco Salviati for the assassination of the Pope.
I'm innocent, it's a mistake. I had nothing to do with that murder. The knife is not mine. I haven't heard from him since the day of Giuliano's murder. It's a trap. I'm innocent and God knows the truth.
Francesco Salviati, with the first rays of the sun, he was hanged from the windows of the palace, and history has always associated his name with the murderer of a pope. Years passed, and we moved to France by the hand of King Francisco I. He bet Leonardo after the fall of Milan in 1515. Leonardo never got over leaving Italy and always had Milan in his heart. We are on May 2, 1515 in the city of Clou, in the private apartments of Leonardo.
Luigi, let Luigi come.
When I arrived, I was surrounded by people in a gloomy, dark room lit by candlelight. The scene more of a wake than a genie's room.
Come closer.
I got closer, and Leonardo whispered to me.
I know 606, it was me. In the Pazzi conspiracy I picked up the knife from Giuliano's chest. My great friend and true benefactor, and his last words were, Leonardo, avenge me. I drew up a cunning plan for 6 years, and using my famous ornithopter, I slipped through the balcony and assassinate the Pope for the Pazzi conspiracy and the cruel death of Giuliano, because friend Luigi who kills iron with iron dies.
Leonardo looked into my eyes. I took a deep breath, and in my arms, I closed my eyes and went from being the most important man of his time to the myth that will be known throughout the history of humanity. With a secret that only I know and that will never be known, I will reveal.